attorney, Nico LaHood.
Thank you so much for joining us. This is Sidebar. We love that you're here, and we hope you continue after next weekend when we are no longer on the radio, but we continue to stream. And that means that right now, if you only listen on the radio, it's a great time to go to sidebartv.com and find the social media platform that you will be watching on next. So, for example, if you listen on Facebook or you know about Facebook, you can go there and listen to the show. Same thing. You'll hear it. Facebook, YouTube, X, that's where you can hear the show. Listen, we are moving, but we hope and we just pray that you will continue to follow, because the people that listen to the show are a huge, huge part of it. We love your contributions. When it comes to comments, we love that it's almost a family, that the people that are on social media can talk with each other, and maybe you don't know the face of the person, but you know them because you see their names every week. And I hope that you will use this weekend and next weekend to tell them, you got to tell friends, you got to tell family, even if we are talking about things that they may not may not want to face, may not want to learn about because they have their ideas. This is a great time for everybody to learn. This is such an important, way to get the message out, I'm trying to say. And my hope is that one day that people will listen and open up their minds to say, my side may not always be right, but the only way to find out about it is to listen to people talk about it. And that is my hope and prayer for the future. And that's what this is all about. And if you're wondering what's trending in the news this week, there's been a ton. I would say the number one thing that everybody's talking about that may or may not happen to us is the winter storm. Oh, I don't know. Is it cold out there? I'll ask you guys because I haven't been outside since about 3:30 this morning. Oh, another storm. What about the storming of that Minnesota church last Sunday? Were people peacefully protesting? That's what I keep on hearing. Of course, we need to talk about that new Democrat governor, that moderate. In Virginia, moderate, we don't know yet. Also, corporate layoffs this week, I guess, on Amazon, the Indiana football team, and, of course, the verdict in the Uvalde trial. Amazing. Every week, come here, listen to the former Bexar County DA, Nico LaHood, trial lawyer, managing partner of LaHood Norton Law Group, and George Araujo, scholar, former chemist, pharmaceutical researcher, and director. Okay, you guys, that verdict in the Uvalde trial, we've got to start talking about that. I was amazed. I watched as much as I could, and each day I was watching it, I was more and more amazed. Nico, congratulations.
Well, thank you, but it's not really a congratulations. It's a verdict that was appropriate based off the facts and the law, but, it's bittersweet, right? I said that.
Absolutely, I agree.
There's so many families on the other side that were not happy with the verdict. They were told by the government that this may be kind of some type of vindication for the horrific. It was a cascade of horror that happened on that day at Robb Elementary in Uvalde. And it was pure, unadulterated evil, depravity at its highest core. The pictures and videos that we had to see and review, all of them didn't make it in front of the jury, thankfully. The judge kept a lot of them out. Were just horrific, the worst I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot. And so it affects you. It affects everyone. It affects the jury, us, the government representatives, and, of course, those precious families that have a new normal in their lives. So it was an appropriate verdict. Of course, we're very pleased with it. We're relieved. But, it's not really like a victory for me. It's just more of a relief that the truth came out. So, yeah, it was tough. It was tough because we picked a jury. And when we picked the jury, there was 450 people in our veneer panel. And that's huge. That's the biggest one I've ever dealt with. I don't think anyone's ever heard of having 450 potential jurors there. And not one of them had not heard about the Uvalde shooting. Not one. So you're thinking, okay, what kind of bias, prejudice, pre-leanings, prejudgments do you have? And you have to get through all that. We had a questionnaire. Judge Harrell was just a professional. He's a very experienced jurist. And we worked through it, worked with the government and with us in a questionnaire to try to get some information from the jury. And it was a new challenge that none of us had faced, but it was one that we were prepared and we strategized on, and we started implementing our theme and our theories then and picking the right jurors, because you have to know who's on your panel. And so we had a strategy on what kind of juror do we want, and we had very specific questions to that. We were gaining a lot of information, and there was a lot of passionate feelings there in the voir dire process. And then we implemented that theory in our opening statements, And then into the government's case, when they put on their case in chief, we had a plan on how to handle each of the government's witnesses. And thankfully, we turned a lot of their witnesses, the jury told us, into our witnesses. And so it was a blessing working with our staff. I mean, Jason Goss, one of my law partners, Gary Hillier, Michelle, and Joseph working with us as well. And then, it was a blessing. And then that was it. It was good.
You say not one of the potential jurors had not heard of the case, but would you want a potential juror to have not heard about that case? Because who would that be? I mean, if you don't know anything about it, it's great, but who wouldn't have heard about that?
It's not about whether they heard about it or not. It's whether they have a judgment already on it.
Got it.
They made up their mind.
Got it.
How do they feel about it? And does that feeling going to influence their verdict? I mean, one of the greatest things that I've heard, because I don't watch social media while I'm in trial. I leave that to Jason and Michelle. They were because it was kind of like a little poll, and you saw what they told me, because I get tunnel vision when I'm in trial. And the narrative started changing midway in the trial. Where, I mean, there wasn't anyone that was, and you see people saying, when this trial started, I thought he was guilty. I wanted a guilty. And in the middle of the trial, you saw just a lot of people saying, hey, this isn't what I thought it was. And wait a minute, why is he the scapegoat? We never used the word scapegoat. We presented evidence he was a scapegoat. We never used the word, and that was very strategic, because we didn't want to come across like we're making excuses. But we wanted to present a perspective, a totality of the circumstances type of approach to where people they got there on their own. The word scapegoat started being used mid-trial, from what I heard, and even towards the end, and then, of course, now. And
I was watching on Court TV online, and I watched that transformation happen, and I was like, oh, wow. This is incredible. All of the people that comments, because you can type in during the trial and, during proceedings, and I was like, wow.
We turned, we had a chance, thankfully, we turned almost a lot of their witnesses into ours. We pulled out a lot of points that needed to be made. And credit to Jason and Gary working with us all, strategizing on how we were going to handle every witness, knowing that there was an emotional side to this. So we weren't going to divorce ourselves from that. Too many times lawyers think that criminal defense lawyers think that we're supposed to be bulls in a China store, and people know people are human. And there's a humanistic side to this. And we started showing that in not just voir dire, but in opening statements and the way we handled witnesses. And there were some witnesses that all you could say is, I'm so sorry for your loss, and thank you for testifying. God bless you. And then there was other witnesses that we had to take it a little further, being gentle. And then everyone was talking about my cross-examination of that ranger that just went off the deep ends on his part, and I had to respond in kind. And I pressed him hard, and I got buy-in from the jury in voir dire. We asked them that, and when I asked them after, they thought it was very appropriate. So they said, nope, he called for it, and you had to push him, and I did. And so, but it had to be done. So.
How long did it take you to get through the 450 potential jurors? I mean, was it 24 hours, 48 hours? How much time did you have?
Well, we had 2 hours each side. And we were working through that, and then we started doing our individual strikes and working through it. And ironically, a lot of the strikes that we made we got all our jurors within the first 50, which freaked us all out. I was like, what? We qualified, so we struck out in the later jurors, but our jury came from the first 50. It was very unique. I mean, you couldn't have.
I couldn't believe it happened so quickly myself. I was like, what?
Well, we tried. We worked hard. And to the government's credit, we worked with them and worked with a judge. We wanted to get a jury sat on that first day. People kept saying it's going to take 2 days and this, and that. I mean, how are you going to get 450 people back? You're just not. I mean, on the officer case here, on the 3-officer case here, we stayed at the courthouse picking a jury till almost midnight. Yeah. It was like 11:30, and we didn't have 450 jurors. And so Judge Harrell is just a lot of experience, 30 years on the bench. I have an interesting journey with Judge Harrell. Judge Harrell is a wonderful jurist. He's a fair jurist. I mean, he made some rulings we did not agree with, but he's the judge, and you go along with it. He's the judge I stood before when I was arrested for selling drugs.
No way.
Yeah. He's the judge.
What?
He's the judge. He was my presiding judge when I was actually a defendant.
Wow.
But he was also the judge that swore me in as DA. And
That's
so full circle,
Totally.
I was honored
I love that.
That he said yes to do that. So it was neat.
We only have a couple of minutes in this segment, but I just wanted to ask, or just make a statement, because Adrian Gonzalez's case is done, but this is this isn't over, because now there's another case, and who knows what happens, because people aren't happy about the Adrian Gonzalez case.
Well, some aren't happy, others are, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so that's you're going to get that split. The narrative, I think, in all and overall has changed, but the families are going to have that position, and I understand, and I'm not going to try to change their mind. I'm just going to pray for them, extend my condolences. It was horrific what their families went through, their family members went through. Evil touched that school and that community that day, and there was a monster responsible for it. And in my opinion, he's in hell. I mean, God has given him ultimate eternal justice, and that's the only piece I have. You know, whether with my brother's murder, with this type of situation, there's earthly justice, but there's eternal justice in my humble opinion, and I believe that it's been exacted on him, and the verdict on him has already been reached a long time ago when he left this earth. And so that's it. You know, all you can do is pray for them and just. You know, but I will say this, and this was one of the greatest messages we got. I won't say their name because they did not give me permission. A couple of a child that passed away in the school messaged us and said we thought that was the right verdict. And it gave me chills. I mean, it was,
I have chills
powerful.
right now.
Yeah, it was powerful. And I was humbled by that. I felt like it was God's affirmation to us, you know, and so we were humbled by that. And so.
Okay, hey, we are going to take a break right now, but please stick with us. And remember, last week that we are on WOAI is next weekend, so you got to start telling people. Go to sidebartv.com. We will be right back with more on Sidebar after this.
A storm is coming.
Icy conditions,
freezing rain,
power outages.
We must be ready.
Batteries to operate a radio. Keep it here.
Please listen to the warnings.
Download the free iHeartRadio app.
It's important.
News Radio 1200 WOAI.
With reputations as respected high-level prosecutors in Bexar County, the attorneys of LaHood Norton Law Group bring invaluable practical knowledge from the other side of the aisle, using over 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome.
I'm Nico LaHood with LaHood Norton Law Group. Have you been arrested or accused of a crime? The LaHood Norton Law Group has the knowledge to defend you regardless of how small or large your case. In Bexar County, anywhere in the state, or even nationwide, we have the knowledge to defend you in federal or state court, no matter how small or large your case. We are trial lawyers with proven success.
Using their 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate for their clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome. The LaHood Norton Law Group. For a free consultation, call today, 210-797-7700. 210-797-7700. LaHoodNorton.com.
This is Nico LaHood. If you or a loved one has been arrested or accused of a crime, we can help.
LaHoodNorton.com.
1200 WOAI. This is Sidebar. Go to sidebartv.com to find social media platforms of your choice, because at 10 o'clock when the show is over on the radio, we continue the show, and we love your comments as usual. And I always say thank you to everybody that goes on. I'm personally on Facebook right now, and Ernest and Sarah and all the usuals. Joy, Quentin, thank you so much for being there and, you know, commenting while we're on.
Don't forget your buddy Alamo Talk.
Oh, he's here. He's here. Everybody's fighting with him already, so everything is.
When you said we're like a family, I guess it's like a little dysfunctional family.
Well,
but
you know,
Fight over what we haven't said anything yet.
not yet.
Hey, but you know what? You forgot that another main story.
Yeah.
There's a very important story here. The story is that Saulo, his birthday is today.
Saulo! Oh my gosh! Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, Saulo. God bless you.
Gosh, that's
How old are you now?
great.
51. God.
Wow! Not even one gray hair yet.
Wow.
Sheesh! Looking good.
Happy birthday, Papa. God bless you.
Well, I don't even know where we're gonna start. George, do you have a last Sunday was the church, or do you want to start with that?
Yeah, we can. I mean, a couple of things here with the church situation in Minnesota. I truly think Don Lemon is not an intelligent person.
No, he's not. He's not.
I mean, I don't mean this to be mean. I'm really trying to temper myself. I think he's a dumb person, meaning unintelligent. He's you know, the question that I think people are going to debate, and I've heard a little bit. I playing catch up. You know, we got back in town on Thursday, and then I was playing catch up, swamped. But was he being a journalist covering the situation, or was he actually participating in it? I have an opinion based off the little that I've seen, and I'm happy to change it if somebody can show me more. But my understanding, I didn't watch all of it, so I'm going to put that caveat out there, is he rode along with that group that was going to go to the church. He flew to Minneapolis, so he was in the car riding with them. He's reporting, and one quote that I saw is, "I can't say what we're going to do." And so he clearly knew what they were going to do. So if you're looking at conspiracy language, he's part of this conspiracy. And so if you look at the KKK Act, and the FACE Act, ironically, that act that protects abortion clinics and things of this nature, it also protects churches. So the FACE Act was a Freedom to Access Clinic Entrances Act signed by Bill Clinton in 1994. It was to protect these abortion clinics, and a lot of conservatives were pissed off about that. So they said, hold on. Well, then as a compromise, they threw in churches, ironically, right? And so it's the same FACE Act that is used to prosecute that gentleman that was praying across the street, which that was ridiculous.
Wow. Yeah.
Abuse
Craig
of
Houck.
that. Yeah. To apply here. So look, I think there should be a prosecution, and I'm very tempered at saying things like that. I'm very tempered. I don't like political stuff. I don't like political prosecutions. This is not a political prosecution. I mean, this is a constitutional prosecution. You do not have a constitutional right to interrupt someone's right to worship. You don't. And so you have competing constitutional rights. That's going to be the argument. That's going to be that's going to be the debate. Is whose constitutional right supersedes? Well, your constitutional right doesn't have a right to supersede and infringe on my constitutional right. And so you can protest peacefully. And I think we have created this situation where there's this boldness, because I don't think city officials and state officials stop riots enough. I believe in peaceful protests. But when you start interrupting business, when you start doing things that are disrupting other people's freedoms, that's not a peaceful protest. That is not a constitutional protest. And so I believe in the Constitution, all of it. When it's against my quote unquote side, I don't give a crap. I still support I'm a constitutionalist. And so this is not that. And so I think this should be investigated. What I saw, and they recorded themselves, so the dumbasses, they're going to
Right.
be using their own videos against them, which is fine. But yeah, so I don't know if that's just starting off, George. I'm sure you got a couple of thoughts on this deal.
I don't know how in the world this is protected speech under the First Amendment. I've read the First Amendment many, many times, and I don't really see the right to enter a church uninvited, disrupt a worship service, and to ask contentious questions of the pastor, and to terrorize little kids, and to stun parishioners. I'm not really sure how that's covered under the First Amendment. It's interesting, the First Amendment, again, one of the freedoms that it protects is the freedom to peaceably assemble in an effort to protest the government for a redress of grievances. I'm not really sure how in the world this is a peaceable assemblage. And what does this have to do with the government? You've got a pastor. Presumably the premise is that the pastor is a acting field director for ICE. And maybe that's why Don Lemon, the so-called journalist who also participated by calling them white supremacists, maybe that's why, but it's hard to see how that's illegal. So I can't, and I just want to, I know we're parked a little bit in Minnesota, but Nico, what's chilling to me is that every single pastor who thought this could never happen in America,
Right.
Okay, that whole notion should just be exploded right now.
Yeah.
And this is where we are. Now, we've been talking about that for you and me for years, and people have looked at us like, what are you talking about, bud? Seriously, find something else to talk about.
The pacifist pastors didn't want to talk about this because they didn't want to get sideways with half of their whatever, and they didn't want to take a stand, and this is what happens.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And we're getting a front row seat or front row pew view of an authoritarian, totalitarian world view. That this isn't just sort of casually an issue with churches. This is centrally an issue at churches. This is a clash of a worldview with another worldview. The left, communism, Marxism is anti-civilization, and it is certainly anti-Christian civilization. And so this isn't a bug. This is a feature. And so I expect this to happen more and more and more, unfortunately. We've been predicting that this is going to be a natural escalation of this worldview being entrenched in American politics, and we've seen it creep into American politics and become part and parcel of American politics. That's very concerning. But every pastor who's been out there thinking this could never happen in America, hey, welcome to reality. This is where we are in America. This is unfortunate. Nico keeps using the word tribal. I think that's right. But the notion, and this is truly, I hate using the word because it's used way too much. Like everything's unprecedented to the point where nothing's unprecedented. But in this case, this is truly unprecedented in American history. I think you'd be challenged to find another example where you have a bunch of thugs in the name of the First Amendment disrupting a Christian service to dress down the pastor. Now, within a shout of my voice, there's people here in San Antonio, Nico. I mean, we go to church. There's churches that we love. There's pastors that we've partnered in the sharing of the gospel in San Antonio. You in particularly, very aggressively, and I love it. But now we gotta step back and think. You're doing this in church. You're ministering to people. Are you okay with a pastor in the middle of a sermon having a group walk in and challenge him, stop him, and because they don't like what he's saying about whatever? I'm just thinking.
See how that works in an imam, in a mosque, and wherever else. I mean, this doesn't apply just anywhere. What if there was the Pride Parade, and then someone did that during the Pride Parade? How would the people would lose their stuff? And this is why I tell people, look, everybody should be on the same page in this. Seriously, even the people that disagree with us, and I love that they listen to the show or watch the show. I love to hear the competing thoughts and opinions and things like these ideas. But this is an idea that everybody should be okay with. Because, again, what do I always say, Karen? Be careful of the world you help create, because someday you may have to live in it. That applies to conservatives and progressives, both. Think about the idea you're advocating and then apply that idea to you and see if you'd be okay with it. And there's no way any progressive on the left would be okay with a bunch of conservatives, crazies, coming in and disrupting their gathering. They just wouldn't. If there's no excuse for it to happen to you, there's no excuse here. These are people, they're not even in public. They're on private property. This is, besides the KKK Act and the FACE Act, I mean, this is just trespassing, old school trespassing. I mean, so everybody should be on the same page. This doesn't have to be my side, your side. This is, hey, these are the rules of engagement. This isn't part of it. If we're going to engage each other in this debate, the spirited debate in the arena of ideas, this can't happen. And so everybody should be, and I'll read the comments, but I have not heard one intelligible argument of why this is okay.
Okay, so 2 people were charged. I don't know what the charges are. What are the charges against them? They're federal charges.
I mean, like Nico said, it's under the FACE Act, and it is under the Ku Klux Klan Act, which is one of several acts to enforce the 14th Amendment in the aftermath of the Civil War. The Ku Klux Klan was a domestic terrorist organization over preventing Black Americans from equal protection under the laws, in this case, in many cases, to having a right to vote. And there were, tons of instances of harassment and physical violence in an effort to obstruct that. This is law. This is a church service, for goodness sakes. This is truly protected constitutional activity, having a worship service in this constitutional republic. And this was obstructive of that. That's why the Ku Klux Klan Act, and then I think more tangentially the FACE Act applies. I want to go back to Keith Ellison, who was the Attorney General of Minnesota, who appeared with Don Lemon the next day on his live stream, where all 7 people were watching. And so here's what Ellison told Lemon, quote, "The protest is fundamental to American society. This country started in a protest. It's freedom of expression. People have a right to lift up their voices and make their peace. And none of us are immune from the voice of the public. So quite honestly, I think that you've got the First Amendment freedom of religion and First Amendment freedom of expression here. And I think it's just something you got to live with in a society." There you go. End of quote.
I would love to interview him,
pastors, you gotta live with this.
Yeah, well then so does everyone else, and so does the progressive, and so does Don Lemon, and so does all these different parades and gatherings and whatever else. And I don't support that either. All I'm saying is what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong, and the Constitution says what it says, and people should be protected to gather peacefully and to express their views. And this is not even an expression of views. This is a worship service. This is completely different. It's in a whole different ballgame. But when you have somebody making a pretzel out of the laws, that was one of our arguments here in our trial, that they kind of made it.
Yeah.
I mean, the trial that we had in Corpus was a trial of first impression. Endangering of a child statute had never been used against a law enforcement officer for quote-unquote inaction before, ever. They had to get a duty, a 605 and 606 duty, and superimpose it and bring it into it, because there is no duty in the endangerment of a child. So they made a pretzel as like this Frankenstein charge indictment where they're trying to put it all together to try to bring something before it and misuse the law. And it's the same thing here. This guy Ellis is misusing the law and he's misapplying the law, which again, he doesn't want it done to him. I guarantee you, And
Amen.
there's
That's
not
right.
one person that will be able to defend that. And do we test it? I mean, is that what it, because you're going to have people on the other side saying, well, then if that's the way it is, then this is what's going to happen. We're going to do this and that. And then now no one's going to be able to gather, or if you're going to gather, it's going to be a fight.
How ironic. For the sake of his own mosque, if he even cares about justice, we better hope the Department of Justice gets their act together and prosecutes these individuals legitimately. This is an intimidation. It is a harassment network of loons. This is communism, friends. Imagine this on steroids, because it's coming to a church near you unless this is addressed. We can't afford for it not to. Going back to Saul Alinsky, well-known Marxist who wrote Rules for Radicals, it occurs to me, I think rule number 1 is where he says power is not only what you have, but what the enemy thinks you have. Mm-hmm. That's why this has to be prosecuted. I would hate for Americans to think that this is the new normal, that this is somehow, this is First Amendment. Can you imagine living in a world where this is normal? You're out with your kids, you're practicing constitutionally protected activity. I don't care where you are. Forget the church. How about a mall? I mean, I'm just imagine I used to go out to the mall with my church to sing Christmas carols. Do you want my kids to be dressed down and harassed?
Look what happened in Europe. And in Europe, where they were taking down Christmas trees and all this other stuff. And
that's right.
I mean, this is where it goes.
It's unacceptable.
And you got to set a standard. And this is not the standard to set from the progressive side. And again, I would love to see people on the left support the fact that they should be prosecuted or they should be held accountable. I'm telling you, it's not going to go well down the road.
Okay, we are going to take a break right now, but remember, go to sidebartv.com. This is the second to the last weekend that we're going to be on WOAI, so you got to find a social media platform now. We're taking a break now, but we'll be right back with more on Sidebar.
This is News Radio 1200 WOAI San Antonio, an iHeart radio station guaranteed human. Now, the latest news, weather, and traffic from the GiveMeTheVin.com Sell Us Your Car studio.
I'm Eric Lycum at News Radio 1200 WOAI. Tens of thousands of Texans without power now as the polar vortex invades. Details coming up first. Traffic and weather together.
The WOAI Traffic Center.
We have a major accident to look out for if you're over in Midtown. That's causing a 30-minute traffic delay and closing down northbound 35. That's between Austin Street and New Braunfels, and that's causing traffic backed up from 37. I'm Carson Parnell, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
Winter storm warning in effect. Windy, cold, 31 at the WOAI 24-hour weather center. Our top story. 35,000 Texans reported without power this morning, mostly in the northeast corner of the state, with some scattered outages in the Permian Basin and Panhandle. Some 3,500 flight cancellations nationwide, with at least a dozen reported in Texas, including a handful in San Antonio. Bexar County Emergency Management Executive Chief Michael Moreland says they are opening up 5 warming centers this morning.
There are certain areas that have received in the past more residents than others.
Moreland says they could end up opening more warming centers if the need arises. ERCOT says the grid is in good shape, but warns that power lines that get ice could cause localized power outages. News on demand at WOAI.com. Our next update, top of the hour, breaking information as it happens. I'm Eric Lycum on San Antonio's news, weather, and traffic station, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
This report is sponsored by iHeartAdvertising.com.
Run a business and not thinking about radio? Think again, because people are listening to radio more today than they did 20 years ago. And only iHeartRadio connects with more Americans than TV, digital, even social. Learn how radio can help your business at iHeartAdvertising.com.
This is Sidebar. Thank you so much for listening. I wish we could be on the air all the time. Oh, yeah, that's right. We are in 2 weeks. We won't have any breaks, and we'll get to talk about things like this that we talk about during the break. And we're just talking about the charges that maybe the people, the parishioners, are they able to sue or do anything against these protesters that came into their church? What can happen?
Sue anybody. You have to have some type of connection to it and nexus to it. I mean, I can't sue someone for someone else's breach of contract unless I have privity of contract, as they say. But I mean, so you have to talk to Minnesota, look at Minnesota law and what their civil statutes and procedures
Oh, well,
say.
then forget about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Minnesota.
But this is the narrative. We got to be very careful. Look, the left is very good at this. I mean, you're seeing all these ICE protests. You're seeing, I mean, here at Holmes High School,
yes.
people walking out of school.
San Antonio City Council.
I mean, City Council, and everyone's playing into it. You got the dipstick of a DA that we have here for now, giving a statement on this. I mean, you have people just a lot of showboating on this deal, and people need to pause and really think about what they're arguing for. Now, look, nobody wants any governmental agency, and you know how I feel about it. I'm pretty consistent about it. I don't care who's in charge, whether it's Trump, AOC, Newsom, Biden, Obama. I don't care. The apparatus of the government needs to be controlled. And if you don't think so, just look at what we dealt with 3 weeks in Corpus. But I mean, you gotta be careful. Somebody can turn a law into a pretzel and use it against you. You have to be careful. There has to be due process, fundamental fair play. Lady Justice has to keep the blindfold on her face. You can't pick it up. It can't be made out of mesh. You can't selectively pick it up when it's applying to you and put it back down when it applies to them. The blindfold stays on all the time. And so we have to be very careful about this. And I heard something about Holmes High School with a walkout. I mean, this is the narrative that people are buying into. I mean, the bottom line is this: do we want people trespassing in our private homes? Everyone's going to say no. Do we want people trespassing into our country? Most people said no in this last election. Now, how do you take care of those trespassers? That's the issue. Because the vote in this last presidential vote was a referendum on we don't want, excuse me, we don't want national trespassers. That's what an illegal immigrant is to me. It's someone who's trespassing. And anyone who wants that, then I challenge them respectfully. Do you want trespassers on your home? How many homeless people do you have in your home? Yep. How many illegals do you have in your home? How many do you have that didn't ask your permission? How about that one? That is another level of analysis. And nobody has said yes. And if they say yes, they're lying. And because there's no proof of it. Let me see your home. I want to see how many tents are in your backyard, in your front yard. And so I call BS on that respectfully, but I do. And so that's the issue here. Now, how do you deal with a trespasser, a national trespasser? That's where people are getting caught up on right now. Because you saw that little kid. I guess there was a little kid in the cold. Yeah. And of course it looked horrible. Yeah. I mean, but to me, it's, and I don't know all the facts on that, but my understanding is the daddy or somebody was illegal. Correct me, George, if I'm wrong, or somebody online correct me. And if somebody's driving with a child in the car and suspected of DWI or reckless driving.
Or being illegal.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
The kid goes into custody. I mean, you don't just leave the child on its own. So I don't know all the facts because I couldn't catch up to all the current events.
And look, you know, the second I saw it, Nico, I mean, I'm telling you, the second I saw it, I knew it was BS. And I wish I could use stronger terms. I just knew it was.
What's the situation?
Well, so the actual story.
Okay.
The actual story was that an illegal alien was pulled over. He got out of his vehicle and he fled. And he abandoned his son.
Got it.
And so, you know, agents are pursuing the target. One stayed back to supervise the child. And so,
but the lead.
And so I remember reading. I remember I read so many reports on it, but it all just sort of blended together. But I remember one account of the story said, you know, I guess this means ICE has cared for more kids than the Somali daycare centers. I mean, because it's been happening a lot.
That's good.
Right.
You know, and so you just sense viscerally, something's not quite right here. You know, and you've got news stories that run with the story because it suits a narrative. This gets back to what you said when you were talking about the case that you just, by God's grace, emerged victorious in. People come in with a sense of what justice already looks like. And trying to get them off that is pretty difficult in some cases, especially when the case is so, there's horror at the center. Like look, there wasn't a case with Uvalde. I mean, 19 precious souls gone. And so you come in, you're wholly invested on what justice actually looks like. And then to be disabused of that by the facts, that's no easy task. So I feel like the courtroom is almost a microcosm of what's going on in America proper, where people come to these issues and they've already made up their mind.
But this is why I'm so harsh on journalism. Look, our local media was horrible about reporting this. I cut them all off during it. I'm not kidding you. I don't give a crap. All of them. Because, and I said, look, and I said this to them because I ripped into them. I said, all of them, I'm an equal opportunity offender. I said, look, if, God willing, there's an acquittal, if, you don't think there's going to be outrage? Why? Because you're only reporting half the story. Literally, you had news stations reporting the direct examination, but not the dismantling and the cross-examination, which is critical. And then you look at reporting outside of our local area, and people are, you can go back and look at this and seeing like, hey, wait a minute, this should be a not guilty. This is this. I hope this is not right. Scapegoating, because they were being reported thoroughly, and people that were watching the trial saw this develop. So reporting matters. It sets a narrative, even though we say that nobody watches. Still people are influenced by it. So if you see a child in the cold by himself, a picture of it without any context, I mean, if a picture speaks 1,000 words, a video speaks more. So let's get the video. Let's get the context. I didn't realize that, but George, about the guy fleeing, and so the illegal alien immigrant fled and left his son.
Child abandonment.
I mean, well, I'm just saying. So what do you do? So there's a child going to be outside for a period of time. I don't know if he was outside for 5 minutes or 5 hours. That matters. I'm sure they put him in a car, but I won't assume anything. Someone can share with me the facts, or I'll look into it later. All I'm saying is this matters, and this is why I get so irritated with me. Just report. Be a journalist. Give me the play-by-play, and let me make up my own mind. That's it. I apply that to Fox. I apply that to CNN, MSNBC, all of them. Just report the news and then let people make up their minds.
And look at where it's coming from. Look at what's driving the narrative. Where's the funding, right? What's the motive? I really want to encourage, because we don't have the time to cover it here, but I think the best piece, very well researched, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, if you just care about what's true, I would strongly consider consulting justthenews.com. There's a piece called Axis of Anarchy, Minnesota anti-ICE shutdown and protest, so-called protest activity, backed by DSA, the Democrat Socialist Party of America, communists, unions, CCP-tied networks. And it's very well researched by Jerry Dunleavy. And Nico, it goes through a network of not just unions like it mentioned, but Democrat so-called socialist parties, the Communist Party of America, the Marxist Revolutionary Forum, I mean, the Party for Socialism and Liberalism. It is a stew of communist efforts that are funding this and doing a very good job, I might say, of promoting it and organizing these obstructions and these disruptions to constitutionally protected law enforcement activity. And now churches, there's a network here. This isn't here and there. Look, while this was happening in Minnesota, it was also happening in D.C. I'm surprised that didn't get a whole lot of attention. You had a guy outside of Christ Church in D.C. with a megahorn shouting, F Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, Kirk Church, F Christ, and on and on and on, with a bullhorn. I'm not really sure how in the world that's peaceably assembling while people are walking out and walking in. So this is happening more and more. We need to pay attention to it, because if you're thinking it's never going to happen to you, I got a bridge I want to sell to you.
I got some oceanfront property in Arizona.
So I noticed this during your trial, Nico. And then, of course, the Don Lemon situation with reporters actually saying, like, the jury got it wrong. And with Don Lemon. Who said
that here? Who said that about our?
I saw it online. I don't know if it was here or if it was somewhere else, but it was a reporter that I saw on social media saying that. So with the Don Lemon thing, saying, really badgering that pastor.
I think you meant it was Clay and Buck, someone told me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was telling this. I'd like to talk to them, but that's foolish of them to say that. But I mean, that's fine. They're entitled to their opinion.
But even the exception, and I'm not taking, their side, but they're not reporters. They're, they give their opinion.
Yeah,
but when reporters say that, and I think Don Lemon saying he's a journalist, that's a reporter, that means you are not supposed to have your opinion in this. It means that you're supposed to state the facts, ask the questions, both sides, get it all out. So with everybody knowing that, I mean, why didn't they charge Don Lemon? I mean, why? What is the holdup on that?
I think they tried to, and I don't know the procedural.
I think a judge rejected it.
I don't know what happened. If they're trying to sign a warrant, they don't have to get a judge involved if you indict. You go to a grand jury. You don't need a judge. So I'm really unclear. I gotta research that. I can have that by next week.
And that's where it's going. That's
so I think there's two ways, at least in state court. You can walk a warrant where you get a judge to sign an arrest warrant. You walk it, meaning you get your affidavit. It's supported by faxing in the four corners of the document. You go to the judge. You say you articulate probable cause, and you say why it needs to be expedited and can't go through the grand jury process. And then, of course, the judge signs the warrant, and then you execute the warrant. That's called walking a warrant if you're not arrested at the scene. But aside from that, they can present evidence to a grand jury and they get an indictment. So you don't need a judge. But I think they probably tried to do it quicker, and maybe that's what happened. I didn't.
But just saying you're a journalist, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, you can say it. It's what you do. It's at the end of the day, it's about conduct, not what you say. I really liked Greg Jarrett's presentation. I thought he did a really good job. I think he's a decent legal mind, and he's certainly very good at articulating issues. He said, quote, rejecting the charges against Don Lemon smells fishy to me, he said. We may actually learn more about the magistrate's motivation, bias, and conflict of interest, but legally, the magistrate would have to decide that these prosecutors did not meet the standard of probable cause.
Correct.
But personally disagreeing with the wisdom of or fairness of bringing the case is not a valid ground for overriding the charging decision.
Is that what he said?
Mm-hmm.
The judge said that. I disagree with it.
That's where Jarrett's coming from. He has reason to believe that there's a personal inclination here. That's why he says we're going to learn more about the motivation, bias, and conflict. But he goes on because he's being interviewed by Sean Hannity. He says, so Sean, I thoroughly expect the Department of Justice to do one of two things. A, either bypass the magistrate by going to a grand jury for an indictment against Lemon, or go to a real district court judge. Because a magistrate is really just a ministerial assistant. He handles misdemeanors, warrants, and empties the trash cans.
Okay, so then hearing that, then I was correct. They tried to walk a warrant on him, and they can just go to a grand jury.
Yeah, the district court judge is interesting to me. He said a real district court judge, that they might go to that, but might be that's kind of a foreign secondary thing to do.
I like him, but I don't like taking shots like that. A magistrate is a judge. I mean, they sign arrest warrants, they sign search warrants, they make judgments on motions to suppress, and they make pre-trial judgments. They assist the district court judges in the federal system. They're real judges. So.
Wow. Okay. I just want to watch Don Lemon
not just
get arrested.
The trash can.
They don't just empty the trash can.
Okay. All right.
Okay, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back with more on Sidebar.
With reputations as respected high-level prosecutors in Bexar County, the attorneys of LaHood Norton Law Group bring invaluable practical knowledge from the other side of the aisle, using over 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome.
I'm Nico LaHood with LaHood Norton Law Group. Have you been arrested or accused of a crime? The LaHood Norton Law Group has the knowledge to defend you regardless of how small or large your case. In Bexar County, anywhere in the state, or even nationwide, we have the knowledge to defend you in federal or state court, no matter how small or large your case. We are trial lawyers with proven success.
Using their 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate for their clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome. The LaHood Norton Law Group. For a free consultation, call today, 210-797-7700. 210-797-7700. LaHoodNorton.com.
This is Nico LaHood. If you or a loved one has been arrested or accused of a crime, we can help.
LaHoodNorton.com.
1200 WOAI, this is Sidebar. Go to sidebartv.com. Find out how you will find us on social media, because we will continue at 10 a.m. When we only go streaming. And you can find it anywhere, Facebook or X or YouTube. Just do it now so that you'll have it all set up. Okay, so people can run. Is this true? People can run and say that they're a moderate, and suddenly when they get voted in, they change their mind. Is that what happened in New York? Is that what currently is happening in Virginia? Can somebody explain to me how 1 minute you're a moderate and that you're going to make everybody happy, and then everything changes?
The problem is the arena that the governor is running in. Is it Abigail Spanberger? Is that her name?
Yes.
So you can run as a moderate, but then you can't govern as a moderate, because you'll get primaried again eventually. So I don't know what she really believes. She probably believes in her quote-unquote moderate positions, but she's not going to. I mean, like I said, all of the candidates there, they can run on a certain platform, but when they get in there, because the primary system is in such a way that you can get primaried, as they say, and get someone more to the left or progressive than you if you don't do what they. I mean, that's what's happening with Judge Sakai. I mean, you know,
that
the
makes
county judge.
My heart hurt. I know.
I mean, I know Judge Sakai. I mean, he was a great district court judge. He was an old school Democrat, kind of a blue dog. I mean, he's working and fighting for families. He's a great jurist, fair dude. I mean, I worked with him when I was a district attorney. I don't know what the grievance is against him from Ron Nirenberg. I just don't. I don't know why he's running against him. I don't know if he's articulated it, other than Ron just wants to be somewhere, I guess. I mean, I don't have nothing personal against Ron. I mean, I know him, but I'm not close with him at all. But I don't like his ideas. I don't like his politics, but that's okay. We live in America. But I don't know why he's running against them, other than the fact that he's just not progressive enough, or he's not whatever enough. And that's what happens. And so at some point, I think people in the Democrat Party are going to have to fight with, okay, what ideas are going to govern this platform? because the old school Democrat that still votes Democrat, even though they don't support what's going on today, but they'll still vote Democrat.
Yep.
At some point, that generation is going to pass on, or they're going to have to find a new home, whether it's independence or the Republican Party. And that's why I'm so critical of the Republican Party, because are they expanding the umbrella? Are they reasonable in how they're explaining the ideas that are governing the party? Because that's all these parties are, is just a platform to advocate ideas. And so, and that's why I'm thinking about the midterms. I'm thinking about the narrative. I'm thinking about what they're doing or what they're not doing, and why I think the RNC sucks and they're not doing anything well right now, and they're not. The messaging sucks right now, and you got all this fervor building up, and it's the right timing for them. And you think it's all fun and games, and you're not Republican enough for me. All right, dumbass. Let's see what happens in the midterms and see what happens to President Trump's agenda
yeah.
when it comes to a screeching halt. So and I don't want that, by the way. I'm just saying, are we moving the needle? Are we changing hearts and minds? Are we talking to people we disagree with? Are we doing it in a way that's bold but yet gracious because we want to change people? They're not dig their heels in more. Are we influencing our children, the next generation? That's why the Charlie Kirk thing was such a big deal. They have not found a replacement. There's not a replacement for him. I don't know what Turning Point USA is doing now. I don't keep up with them. But I mean, it's a big deal. I mean, it's a really big deal. So I'm not comfortable with the midterms. I know George is more comfortable than I am. I'm not.
I'm not like elated, but I'm comfortable. But that's not a winning strategy. Are you comfortable? I mean, we need to be better than comfortable. I think right now we look pretty good in terms of retaining the Senate. We do. There's about 35 Senate seats that are going to be up for grabs, and the split's around 22 to 13. 22 are for grabs for Republicans, 13 for Democrats. So that, on paper, that looks like it's ominous for Republicans, but they're in solidly Republican strongholds. And so right now, the Cook Political Report and I think 270towin.com is a really good analytical website. It puts, right now we've got about 8 seats. It's 51 to 43 right now, Nico, and I think they're predicting that it's going to end up at 51 to 45. So the Senate, at least on paper, looks pretty good. Let's see how the gerrymandering stuff goes if the United States Supreme Court in Louisiana versus Calais comes, as is expected, to say that, in fact, they're ready to toss preconceived notions or traditional notions of the Voting Rights Act and racial gerrymandering and all that stuff in favor of the GOP, that I think we could see as many as 19 seats be added.
But the House, I mean, then the House is going to be a battle. I mean, that's going to be a battle. And,
yes,
and for me,
that's much more vulnerable.
And I've said this for a while. There's been no discussion, and I'm disappointed that there hasn't been a discussion about replacing Alito and Thomas on the Supreme Court. I mean, these guys are not spring chickens.
So scary.
And I'm telling you right now, if it's not this president, and it's not this Congress, whatever, I'm telling you, you say goodbye to the Supreme Court. I'm not wishing that. Not that I could speak it over, but you know me, I'm not hoping that. I'm not.
I think that's a real concern. And if you have an administration at the national level like you have in Virginia right now, and you brought up this idea that these old school Democrats are assuming when they hear pragmatist language and moderate language that they're actually going to govern that way. That's not at all the case. No. This is a purple state. This is what a very deep blue administration looks like in a purple state. This is a blueprint for what you can expect. She ran as a moderate. We all knew she wasn't. As a pragmatist.
So did Biden.
Oh, sure, exactly. And then she come in, and within minutes, I was saying off the air after she was sworn in, you had you had a flood of bills that are coming through both houses of the legislature, which are controlled by Democrats, and it is a left-wing fever dream. I mean, bills to decriminalize heinous crimes, protect and pay for illegal aliens.
It's a sanctuary state now. To
end investigations into massive fraud against taxpayers. It basically looks at what's going on in Minnesota and it entrenches it. It legalizes it. It normalizes it. It allows all kinds of government intervention into private lives and businesses in the name of climate change. I mean, half the state that is not on board, but elections have consequences. I'm not freaking out that this is somehow a national referendum. The wins in New York, the wins in Virginia, the win in Miami, these are purple areas, purple to blue. So I don't think we can extrapolate to national. But the idea that we sit on our ass and say we're going to be okay, that's crazy.
Yeah, but Miami had a Republican mayor, right?
It did, but I'm saying traditionally,
I
just
know.
like in Virginia, it had a Republican in Youngkin, but he's an anomaly.
Yeah.
And so we can take some comfort from that. I think we should be careful not to extrapolate that immediately to national, but that doesn't mean we sit on our laurels. We got to be very, very careful. These people are very well organized.
The Republican Party's not doing crap. They're not doing anything. They're just not. I mean, you just don't see a momentum like you did before. You don't see good narratives. You don't see good people out there handling talking points and educating the public,
Yeah,
and then
can't
so the
disagree.
narrative being changed. And so,
Can't
look,
disagree.
I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't want to be an "I told you so" person, and I'll try not to be in November, but we'll see.
Yeah. What are some examples of things that they could say? Like, for instance, in leading up to Mamdani, what would have been a good narrative?
In what sense?
Just for instance, I would argue Mamdani ran on affordability. That was complete bull. I would have said, and I can't believe nobody brought this up. Hey, wait a minute. So you're running against yourself. What do you mean? Well, let's see. Rent control, excessive taxation. You've got excessive litigation, right? So you've got chaos here in New York. Who's been in control? So you're running against yourself, basically. So you got an affordability crisis that you created, and now you're coming in as a problem solver. Nobody brought this up. Just little things like that. You don't need a PhD in political science to bring out the obvious and articulate it.
But this is why, and people.
Same thing in Virginia, by the way.
Well, think about who was the Republican running in New York.
What was the guy's
Red Beret. And everybody said, "Oh, I like him. You guys
Was
are
it
ridiculous.
Curtis?
You guys are ridiculous."
Curtis Lewa.
Yeah, I'm ridiculous.
Lewa, yeah.
Now what? You can call me.
whatever
You
his
can call
name is,
George and I ridiculous all you want. What happened? Now what? So Red Beret went out there and did what? Okay, I'm not saying he didn't do good work on the streets. So stay on the streets.
But when you
this
wear
is
the red beret,
representative. But this is the representative of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
I mean, are we serious? Well, then okay, this is what we get. You get Mamdani, and you get 5 calls to prayer in the streets, and you get churches run over, and Jewish people being harassed, and whatever else, and people leaving, and businesses leaving, and the stock exchange thinking of leaving, and all right, there you go. Then let's see what happens in Virginia. Let's see what happens in Miami. Let's see what happens you already see what's happened in Bexar County. I mean, so all I'm saying is we got to have discussions about ideas, and I don't know what to say about the Democrat Party, because I know a lot of Democrats that don't agree with the platform of the party. I just do. And then my humble pushback is, then why do you keep supporting it? Because they're so tied into the label. It's that tribalistic mindset, and whatever growing up, they just had this animus against conservative, quote unquote, a Republican Party for whatever reason, and Trump changed that narrative. But he did it with a different formula. And I don't see that formula. I don't see the people out there talking, the surrogates out there talking. Trump's not the candidate. So, I mean, he was a very unique candidate. I don't see anybody on podcasts anymore. You see any Republicans on podcasts? Nothing. What do you see? Nothing. But the other ones are. I mean, so.
Even Joe Rogan is starting to.
Joe's wavering,
chipping away at his backing Trump, which is so heartbreaking. But a lot of people that I've heard, and I don't want to start the whole other Davos topic, but I kind of want to bring it in because lots of people are talking about Trump and saying, well, he was all about make America great again, and therefore they don't understand. Why is he dealing with the entire world instead of dealing with us? When I think a lot of people may not know that fixing all that's been happening all around the world is necessary in order for us to make America great again. Isn't it? Is it all together? I mean, he's not ignoring America and the incomes of people and affordability, is he?
It's a calculated risk, isn't it? I mean, it is an integrated, it has been a deeply, perhaps overly integrated global economy. America's economic fate has been impacted greatly by policies that have invited foreign nations really to sort of get wealthy on the back of taxpayer dollars from America. And so Trump has tried to shore that up and has made that a huge priority. It's a strategic move. There's some political cost for it, but you could argue it's in his first 10 or 11 months. He's got time. I mean, if he did this at the very end and hadn't done anything in his first 2 or 3 years, I think he'd be in deep trouble.
Well, what time does he have, Dad? What time does he have? He has till November.
Midterms, that's it.
He has till November.
No, right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's the part. He doesn't have time. He has till November. And that's it. I mean, I wasn't trying to argue against that.
I wasn't suggesting he has a lot of it, because he doesn't. But I'm agreeing with you. I think what I'm suggesting is that he needs to shore up the economy. You can't just talk about it. You can't just sit there for the first year and talk about it. Like if he just went on podcasts and if he kept up that full court press and nothing was done, the things that he did weren't done, people would have soured on that. Lots of talk that sounded great. I was with you for the first 10 months, and now I actually drop you like a hot potato coming into the election. He reversed that. Let's get the fundamentals in place. Let's shore up these economic indicators. I mean, supply chains, building the manufacturing base, going after a bloated regulatory framework, going after the taxation problem, the tax cuts, which are due to expire at the end of the year, that required priority. So he's put those fundamentals in place, and now perhaps, and I don't know, I'm asking, could this be a strategic thing? Maybe I would look to Salo for this from a media perspective. He knows that people have a short attention span. Why not do the big things, the necessary things that sway public opinion at the very end when people are about to go into the ballot box?
Well, we'll finish talking about this and answer some questions. If you guys want to stick with us on social media. Salo, happy birthday again, brother. God bless you. Many more birthdays. Thank you guys for joining us again. This is our second to last weekend on the radio. We have one more weekend on the radio. We're not stopping the show. It'll just only be on streaming, on live, on social media. So find your social media platform. Join us for a little while longer on the after show. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful weekend.
The proceeding. You said churches are canceled.
All churches.
God doesn't like the cold.
No, he does.
Or ice.
We don't.
I do have something to say. Go ahead. No, go, George. I wasn't
hear from
listening.
you, Karen.
Yeah.
No.
See, he didn't even want to hear from me.
I
So-
hear from you all the time.
I heard something. I watched. Stop it. I listened to social media too much, but that's like my window to the world when it comes to stupidity and to people that are funny and are smart. Mostly stupidity. But I did hear one person saying that they believed that everything Trump was doing is good, but he's doing so much and I mean, it does affect every single country when it comes to the tariffs, when it comes to affordability, that they believe a smarter move would just to say, don't tell everybody every single thing that you're doing, because you know how Trump likes to boast about what he's doing. Instead, talk about the job growth, talk about the economy getting better, talk about this, and don't give us every single detail, because that's when Americans get lost, because they don't understand that Ukraine and meetings here, meetings there. Like, it doesn't feel like he's paying attention to America when he's doing it all for America, but he's just telling everybody too much. Is that a possibility?
So he's been talking about the secondary issues and not enough about the primary.
Yes.
So in other words, tell me everything
Don't tell me everything
to say about the things that I care about.
Correct. And that's so American, isn't it?
Fair enough. Trump, poll numbers aren't lost on Trump. He cares about poll numbers. I mean, remember when he's running for office, and even in Trump 1.0, I mean, every time there was a poll that was favorable to him, that dude was out there. So he follows the polls. He sees what's going on. I think it's remarkable that he hasn't remarked as much about polling on the economy. And when he's asked about it, he's obviously very optimistic about what they're doing, but he keeps saying, hey, it's coming. And Investon comes in and says, oh, this is going to be revolutionary. What's going to happen here coming in the first quarter? So. But he hasn't really doubled down on the polls and on the economic message. And I'm wondering, is this a timing issue? Because there's no way that's lost on him, Nico. And he knows that people care deeply about pocketbook stuff. So
my concern about this first quarter economy build up, it's coming. I keep thinking of what's her face, the Kraken. What's her name?
Sidney Powell.
Sidney Powell. Yeah.
Drop the Kraken.
Puff lady.
That never came?
I mean, just the Kraken never came. Maybe she was sitting on her Kraken, and that's all.
Stop it.
But that's about it.
Yeah,
Sid's
thanks for the visual.
Who?
Yeah, Sid's on Facebook, and she said on the jet on the return from Davos, he did say he's now going to spend time on the campaign trail, making people aware of what is going on here.
Well, that's good. Look, the bottom line is you can have the greatest message, the greatest product, but if nobody hears about it, then you have the greatest product nobody heard about, and nobody can get it. That's where that marketing 101 is.
Yep.
And so sometimes Trump overmarkets things, and he's too
the wrong
hyperbolic,
things.
and he focuses on the wrong things. Sometimes he says things and doesn't mean them because he's trying to get a rise. Like who? I mean, I never thought he was going to invade Greenland. I never thought that.
And he never said he would. He never said he would.
Said it's not off the table.
Right.
But
he never said, I'm going to invade Greenland.
He said some things. He alluded to it, which I don't know. It's all over the place. I mean, either you start not taking him seriously, or you think he's just saying this. Look, his style is his style. He is what it is, and we got him for 3 more years. And I like what he's doing in policy ways, and what he's doing. I mean, it's definitely better than what Harris would have done. She would have continued to destroy this country. But if we don't have something to back to further Trump, meaning Trump. Not Trump, but those policies to continue, and a Congress to support it. It doesn't matter. I'm telling you, this country cannot have long-term flourishing with a ping pong mindset, or this yo-yo feeling politically. This up and down, up and look. El Salvador is flourishing. Why? Because Bukele's been reelected how many times now? I don't know how many times. At least twice, and by 80-something%. 80-something percent he got reelected. I mean, that's insane.
With a popularity level that's maintained.
With maintaining, because people are feeling it. They're seeing the results. So, and he's not, and look, I think his style for them, for El Salvador is working. I mean, that's a very different country than America.
And
I got it.
Javier Milei in Argentina.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're not, they have a different style. Yeah. They're bold. I like the brashness. Yeah. They're bold. They're very clear. But they're not, I don't know. That's just
Giorgia Meloni in Italy. I mean, the female Trump, same type of platform, same type of priorities, right?
resonates there very well.
And they all have been reelected, and I don't know how many times they can run for office though in El Salvador. I mean, I hope that they can keep Bukele forever.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Well, for them,
and
yes.
That's part of our challenge here in American politics. I mean, I think Europeans look and they think that it's maddening. I mean, every 4 years, it is just a natural challenge. I mean, you get a president within 2 years, he's legitimately obstructed, right? If you look at George, I want to say this up front. I've got so many thoughts because when you and I talk together, it's a little frustrating talking to Nico because when
really
he'll say
You're
something
not the first to say that,
because he'll say something in a good way. He'll say something and he'll put like 18 issues in one sentence, and I'm like, okay, so that's like 18 hours for me. I mean, there's a lot of red meat there, and you said a lot of things there, and I just want to back up and start by saying this, just for perspective. At this time in his second term, at this exact time in his second term, Barack Obama or George Bush, Donald Trump's approval rating is exactly the same.
What happened in the next election?
No, I'm just saying.
And
I'm just saying.
I know,
the past
but-
The
presidents.
narrative is that Donald Trump is Satan.
Yeah,
And-
we know that's not true. But I'm already past Trump, to be honest with you. I in my mind.
Yes.
I mean, not completely, because I want him to finish his agenda. He's got 3 more years, hopefully, not 10 more months.
Yes.
But I'm just saying, Obama's agenda did not continue.
So look at midterms, and what you saw at this time in their midterms, Bush and Obama lost an average of 22 seats in the House and around 8 seats in the Senate. So this is why they say, just in near history, it never looks good for the party in power. I mean, that ebb and flow just happens. You know, it's just part of the human condition. But on paper, it does look like one of the houses at this moment, and that's with criticisms of rhetorically how the GOP is handling things right now. It looks like the Senate looks pretty solid, looks pretty safe. The House looks vulnerable, but it's not. Oh my goodness, there's no way we can win. It's nowhere near that. It's not that kind of hopelessness. There's a good shot of holding on to the House, but we are vulnerable. We are, and right now we're not winning the media game by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm just, to me, I don't want to be the sky is falling. At the same time, we can't sit on our ass. So I think the data justifies that. But look, from an inflationary perspective, tons of wins there. I mean, I actually went back and pulled up the Bureau of Labor Statistics. You guys got to, if you're listening, go to BLS.gov and look at the Consumer Price Index historical tables for for the United States, and then scroll down and then literally look at inflation and percent change year after year, and look at Trump in his first term. You can see Biden coming in, you can see Trump coming back in. This is inarguable. I mean, Trump in 2016, 2.0 year-on-year inflation. 2017, 2.2. In 2018, 1.8. 2019, 2.3. In 2020, as Biden's about to assume control, Nico, 1.4. Then Biden comes in 7.8. From 1.4 to 7.8 the year after. 6.3 the year after that. 3.3, 2.8. Now we're at 2.6 and coming down. You can see that. You can literally trace it. Peaking in July or June of 2022 at 9.1. If you care about the economy, step back, breathe, look at the facts, look at history. We don't have enough people out there educating the American people. We should. J.D. Vance, by the way, I think is doing a phenomenal job on this front. I mean, he just came out of Minnesota. What a great job at the March for Life. Did a great job. I mean, the guy is just, I mean, he's vice president, so he doesn't want to outdo, I mean, you know.
Every female on Trump's staff is pregnant.
Not because of J.D. Vance, though. You left a bad impression. I'm just saying,
tough, though.
Be careful. Don't
It's tough, though, isn't it, though? Because he doesn't want to out-Trump Trump. I mean, he's the VP. So, I mean, he's great at articulating this stuff.
I think at some point, if Trump really cares about the next election, he should let J.D. out-Trump Trump.
Yeah.
I would at some point. I'm not saying it's now.
That's a smart move.
After the midterms.
Interesting.
That is smart.
After the midterms, a true mentor lets the mentee out-Trump them. At some point, because they care more about them.
I love it. He's a bulldog, so I don't think it would take too much to get him out there to do it. Between he and Rubio, I think great communicators. And I love the way, I mean, I can't believe Newsom showed up at Davos. I know we were going to talk about
With
that a little more,
Soros.
but yeah, but I mean, it was it was an America first. He was proud. Trump spent half of his speech basically praising himself. I know that's hard to believe.
No.
But praising but praising administration, and it was just a love fest for America. And he's basically saying, holding America, wasn't it, Salo? I mean, he just went on and on about how wonderful.
Well, look, this is, if I was giving advice, I would change the narrative, start doing more interviews, get the RNC back together, get Laura Trump off her podcast and get her back running the RNC. I would have a phenomenal celebration at the White House for the 4th of July, 250 years, the UFC event. I would push all of that and start doing the rounds again. Get people out there doing the round. You have to start doing these things, and let's see what he does. And then of course he's going to do that $2,000 refund check. I'm sure before the
don't forget that
November.
That's the Lebanese in you coming out.
Well, that's not the Lebanese in me. He said it. I acknowledged it. But the Lebanese in me. $2,000. What? What did I sign?
You had me at $2,000. Yeah. He's been. What was a national event? Remember? And leading up to the campaign, he was going to national event after national event, sporting events, and he was just like people. It was like a rock star.
I think he's afraid that he'll get booze now.
I know, but he just came out of one where he got. What was the one that he just came out of where people were like jumping out of their skin?
It was a football game.
Yeah. I didn't hear any booing there.
Good.
And I mean, people were.
Army,
it was
Navy,
very congratulatory, and I don't know. Give me some hope. It gave me.
He needs to get back on Rogan as a starting. Just get back on Rogan and talk. Let Rogan drill them.
I agree.
Go back and forth and debate each other and talk and just answer questions. I mean, get back out there on the. I mean, it's worth the 2 hour. That would be a well worth 2 hour endeavor, 3 hour, whatever it is. It would.
And correct the record. I mean, I'd love to see a Vance on Rogan as well. When Rogan uses terms like Gestapo, I know he was just using it in his narrative. He was asking, he's like, so what are we, the Gestapo? I mean, well, wait a minute. What do you mean the Gestapo? I mean, do you know what the Gestapo actually did? Where in the world is there an analogy to ICE? For goodness sakes. They're not rounding up American citizens. The Gestapo actually rounded up German citizens. Get it? And it wasn't just Jews. Jews got the brunt of it, but it was also any German citizen who wasn't on board. The Gestapo actually rounded up Christian pastors. Did you forget about Dietrich Bonhoeffer? Where's the Gestapo thing come from? So I just get engaged in that kind of, I mean, because Rogan's not an irresponsible guy. And that's a hugely irresponsible thing to say when you start throwing around Nazi and Gestapo language.
But he's like Elon. When you ignore him and don't give him the love, that's when he starts to change. You know, you have to pay attention to those guys.
Maybe that's the issue.
I'm gonna keep sounding the bells, man. We got to make sure that the RNC is getting their shit together.
Amen.
and thinking about the November. I'm telling you, these protests are gonna still happen. Keep happening.
I know the former head of the RNC is running for office now.
Great,
Michael Watley. But man, maybe get him off just for the season.
I don't know. I mean, someone better do something.
Somebody sweeten the pot and get him back in, along with Laura Trump.
And then get back into the schools, get back into our young people. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I can't overemphasize the loss of Charlie Kirk is a big deal. Huge. It's a big deal in the narrative with young people. And now should their ideas change just because Charlie's no longer on this earth? Well, no, not really if they were persuaded in the first place, but they're not going to be encouraged. Who is taking up that mantle? And I'm not saying there's anyone to replace him, but there's got to be. And I know a couple people are trying, and it's not Ben Shapiro.
It's not Erica Kirk.
No, it's not Erica Kirk. I mean, she shouldn't even be in that position, in my humble opinion.
Well, Nico's concerns are valid. There's a piece, reminds me of what you were saying, that I think people would benefit from reading, by J.T. Young in theblaze.com. Trump's agenda faces a midterm kill switch.
Yeah, there you go.
In 2026. It's a sober assessment. He's not the sky is falling, but he's raising the concerns that you're raising. There's a lot to be proud of. Who the hell is making the case? Legitimate question. And he goes through some of the things that have been accomplished, legitimate, powerful accomplishments. I love a way, there's a section in there where he turns to the sky is falling economists who said that the American economy was going to be blown up because of Trump's tariffs. And we've frankly had nothing but victories as a result of Trump tariffs. I mean, we're sitting here laughing at all the way to the bank with $300 billion extra sitting in Treasury. That's just math. That's not Democrat or Republican. Who the hell's talking about that? I know Trump mentions it occasionally, but somebody ought to be talking about how the hell that happened.
But everyone needs to be talking about it. Everybody from Rubio to Bassett, all of them, JD, they should all be talking about that. Comments? Everybody's preparing for the cold. What are we doing?
Well, no, but I just keep on thinking about Somalia because that whole issue in Minnesota, and now I think Dr. Oz was out in front of some building saying that this one 2-story building had 400 offices that were all each getting around $1 million in government funding. I mean, how is this going to help the average voter? I mean, is this going to help understand that there is a lot of evil out there and that Trump is trying to make things better, but there's so many things that he's trying to do at the same time? I mean, do people even care? That seems to have gone away in the news too.
There are subpoenas that have been, aren't there released for Tim Waltz and Keith Ellison?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
But people keep on saying we haven't seen anything. Like, not even, I mean, I know it's ridiculous and it's not related, but not even Don Lemon.
About what?
mean, you know, like, like none of the bad guys are behind bars. And I'm not saying that everybody should be behind bars, but it feels like nothing is being done about all this bad stuff that's going on.
Is it appropriate to say patience, justice is coming?
Well, look, I mean, you don't want to rush to judgment. I mean, that's what we criticize. I criticize all the time of somebody misusing the justice system and rushing to a judgment. You want thorough. You want it to stick. You don't want it to be dismissed and or acquitted. If you're going to prosecute someone, you got to make sure it's the right thing to do, number one. Number two, that you have the facts and the law that merge together to support the prosecution. And then it has to sustain a jury trial if it goes to a jury trial. So they got to do their due diligence. That being said, I don't want people just to be arrested just to be arrested. I want people held accountable, whoever that is. Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. If it's more Democrats, so be it. If it's more Republicans, so be it. But I want people held accountable. There's an accountability issue. And an objective dispensement of the law. Objective, not subjective. I'm gonna continue to say that. And I hope the DOJ does it appropriately, properly, and can back that up with evidence and go to a trial and get a conviction if they feel that that's
Can you
appropriate.
explain the subpoena process briefly? What is one?
A subpoena is just a directive to show up somewhere. Doesn't tell you what to say. And if you do Ducas Tecum, that means bring something with you. Show up and bring these documents or bring this information with you.
Issued by typically
by a court. By the system. I mean, you can have grand jury subpoenas. The grand jury has a lot of authority. The grand jury gives out subpoenas and can issue subpoenas. A judge does. When you subpoena someone, we can subpoena someone to trial. You can't subpoena someone to talk with you, to do an interview. You can subpoena them to an actual hearing or some type of proceeding. Unless it's the grand jury, there's not a proceeding per se. It's an investigation.
And there are consequences for rejecting the subpoena. Like, for instance, the Clintons
can be held in contempt.
have been issued subpoenas, and they're in. I think there's unanimity, right? Well, not unanimity, but no, actually there was. You had Democrats, Democrats who jumped over to hold them in contempt of Congress.
Isn't that
so
what?
can there be contempt?
How many people went to prison for that? Was it Navarro and what's his name?
Steve Bannon.
Steve Bannon.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, I don't know if it's the exact same thing, but I'm just saying, look, it's got to be dispensed equally. So the Democrats that did that, good for them. Seriously, good for them for doing that. Again, we got to get back to that. I'm telling you.
I mean, it pertains to the Epstein files, different issue,
well,
but still,
it doesn't matter.
It matters.
Same
People
thing,
care
yeah.
about
But the
that.
same principle applies to the Epstein files, applies to whatever proceeding. You don't have to say what they want you to say, but you have to show up.
So they blew off a subpoena. There's a consequence for that.
There should be.
Even if it's not the Clintons, there's
But
consequences
then go
for
get
it.
picked up and brought over, you know.
Oh, okay.
So
you're held in contempt of
You can
court? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
you can be held in contempt.
So that's where Walz and Ellison are, and they need to be. There's a decade of blowing off efforts to hold sources of fraud accountable, and so they need to answer for that, legitimately so. This is an issue that polls well. I mean, Americans, regardless of what party they're from, they don't stomach fraud well. And this has been overwhelming. The evidence has been frighteningly overwhelming. Billions and billions of dollars and in multiple states. And it's not the government that's issuing these reports. You've got independent reporters. We talked about Nick Shirley, but there's others like him and
are.
So thank God in that sense for social media. They're out there with a phone and a narrative, and they're videotaping stuff, and it's hitting people where it counts. And people are like, man, this is disgusting, because those are my dollars. Those are my hard-earned dollars that could go to my kids. So people are taking this personally, as they should. I don't think the fraud thing is going to go away.
Nor should with that it shouldn't go away. But what happens from it? It's a process. Look, these big financial white collar cases are complex. There's a lot of them. Tracing, you have forensic accounting. There's a lot of stuff that goes on.
Are they hard to prosecute?
No, not really. I don't think so. I mean, it's hard to defend. but you can do it. I mean, because you're doing, like I said, you're doing a lot of accounting, a lot of tracing. You're following the money. You're doing these forensic accounting of where this money went, and was this a shell company, and what kind of front was it, and so where the money you're tracing this money where it went, and how was it allocated, and what authority you had to move it or not move it or take claim to it. So I don't think they're boring to a jury. They're like, what? I mean, it's not sexy, but I mean, they're specific. Let's put it that way. Whether they're complex or not, if you don't have a working knowledge of finance and things of this nature, and some accounting principles, it can be complex to you. But it's just more boring for people, for a jury at least.
If you want to see
Patricia
that illustrated,
I was thinking, I just keep on, I keep on thinking of the fish that got away, and I do have patience, but it just seems to keep on happening. I
don't think that's over yet, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I don't. To Nico's point, I mean, it's methodical,
I get it,
it's
but
timely. You think it's blue skies, and all of a sudden the other shoe drops. It is boring, but you can go back when they were tracing all of the shell companies that were laundering money to Biden people or Biden affiliated people, Biden family or Biden family affiliated people. The House Oversight Committee did a methodical year on year job of actually tracing all this stuff. And so it is boring, it is lengthy, but eventually the shoe drops.
Yeah,
One would think.
I mean, I'm gonna
One
keep
would
on,
hope.
I mean, you should hear the debates we have in the firm, because we have different political opinions. It's not all. I mean, I'm the strongest.
I would love to hear
Patrick's
that. Yeah.
conservative also, but David retired. But it's very interesting, and we have heated debates. A bunch of lawyers litigating with each other.
I would love to hear that.
But to me, it's about ideas. I mean, what ideas do you want implemented? We all coalesce around the idea that our justice system has to wear a blindfold.
Yeah.
And it has to be fair, and it has to be fundamental fair play and due process. And we believe in cross-examination, juror by a jury of your peers, things of this nature.
Yeah.
And discovery rules and all that stuff. Well, think about those rules of engagement to our society. That's the way I try to implement it. I think, what rules do we want out here? We don't like when people abuse the rules in the justice system, especially when it's applied to you. What rules out here do you want? And so I can't say it enough. I'm going to keep saying it until I can't talk anymore. But I really want people to take off labels and talk about ideas. Like we have a DA race coming up. We have local judge races coming up. We have commissioner courts and county races coming up. We have a mayor race that happened already. Ideas have consequences, and all you got to do is look at the ideas, what they're advocating. Forget about the person for a second. If you have an example of those ideas playing out in another community, see if that's what you like. And if you do, can you support it? And if you do you mind it being applied to you? That's for me. And I try my best not to be a hypocrite. If there's an idea that I like, will it apply to me? And I'm telling you, this midterm is going to be a big deal. And so I like more conversations. We need to have more of these conversations. I hope people engage more in these conversations and come ready to talk, debate, influence, persuade, and then go out there and vote. You got to vote. I mean, you can't just be stump on a log and just bitching about shit.
With a bunch of crazies saying on social media, can you tell I have no life? I am on social media a lot. But they say that
Tinder?
you should go and re-register as a Republican so that you can vote in the primary for like the worst possible candidate, so that you can then, vote for who you want to during the race. I mean, between the voting machines and the early voting and mail voting and drop it off in a mailbox voting, I mean, is it that there are so many ways to cheat, or is it that people aren't voting that really screws things up? Everything
not
up.
voting for sure. and if somebody comes over to a primary to vote, that's a strategy. That's not cheating. I mean, if a Democrat wants to come over to the Republican Party and vote for a crappy candidate, that's a strategy. That's not cheating.
Can enough people do that to affect an entire race?
I mean, I guess theoretically they could, sure. But I mean, they're not voting in their primary. Maybe they feel like their primary is already taken care of. I mean, that's there's people that argue against the primary system, the process.
Right.
But I mean, Patrick has a strong opinion about that. I can't articulate it the way he talks about it. But I mean, of course, nobody wants cheating. I don't want cheating. I want a fair fight, man. Maybe I take too much pride in my work. If in a fight, in a ring, in a competition, I don't want to win at all costs. I got to win. I mean, I hope it's a good pride in that sense, but I don't want to cheat to win. But I want a fair, even playing field, and that's why I get so impassioned when I feel people are being taken advantage of, like in this last situation. And let me take a point of personal privilege real quick, please. But the narrative for a long time was that Adrian was a coward. And he wore that label for 3 years, and he was called a monster. And the real bastard that was responsible for stealing those precious children was dead. He's like I said, he's in hell. But then there was no one else to call a monster, so they pushed it on Adrian, and they called him a coward. And that guy was not a coward. I mean, there was other people that you could argue. They stayed at the perimeter, and we brought that out in trial. And why did they stay there, and why did they stay away? And Adrian drives into the trouble he thought was the shooter initially. He stays there when there's shots being fired, can't figure out, never saw the shooter, ever. No, never contested. The jury saw that, and they made a comment about that. Other officers saw the shooter on the west side of the building. He was on the southeast side of the building. And then, after Sergeant Page showed up, and when he was dealing with Miss Flores, who was a slash witness slash victim, and a lot of chaos going on, he darts in. He's one of the first 5 officers in that building, and they stayed in that hallway, which the jury heard ad nauseum about this, about being a fatal funnel and how dangerous it is. And that shooter shot through the wall, almost hit Sergeant Page, hit 2 other officers, Martinez and I think Canales, in the ear and the head, scraped his head. And so they're taking fire in that hallway. And he stayed in the hallway. I mean, and the jury saw the video. So the narrative was wrong. And so these narratives matter. And so, I'm just grateful for Adrian. He had to wear that disingenuous, it was a wrong, false badge of being a coward, and he was not a coward. Did any of them act perfectly? Of course not. We lost 19 precious babies. But the circumstance sucked, and I'm not defending all of them. That's a different discussion. I'm happy to talk about what could have been done differently and what needs to be done differently for schools. I mean, I'm all in on this deal, and we need to protect our babies. And it involves having proper weapons, proper resources, proper locks. That building was not locked. The school was not locked. If that bastard doesn't get into the school, it's a whole different ballgame. You have time. Yeah. If the school classrooms were locked, they weren't locked either. I mean, these guys walked in. So there's just a lot to talk about, having shields, having the equipment, an outward swinging door, how to breach an outward swinging door, what could have been done differently, what could the school do, the teachers, the training, the law enforcement, what they're taught to do on an active shooter situation. And there's a mixed message, by the way. It's really confusing. It's bad. So there's a lot to do there. But I just wanted to say that for Adrian. I mean, what he shared with us. He's like, I wore that badge for all these years, and he was emotional about it, and it was unjust. I did what I could with what I knew at the time, and he was willing to die. He drove to what he thought was a shooter, and he ran into shooting. You're willing to die. He was willing to make his wife a widow and his children fatherless, and his grandchildren grandfatherless. He was willing to do that, but he was labeled something else. So narratives matter, and that's why you have to find out the full context of a situation, including politics. We've got to just pause, sit back. What are we really trying to accomplish? How are we trying to accomplish it? Let's have discussions. Let's talk to people we disagree with. Let's look at all the facts. Let's be open-minded to change. Let's be open-minded to be corrected. Let's be open-minded to being wrong, and then adjust accordingly. That's, to me, the recipe moving forward, because what I see in this country, guys, I really am not encouraged. I'm not. This division, this strife, and we're celebrating 250 years, but we ain't going to get to another 250. Now, I won't be here. I'll be in eternity, but I do care about the generations behind me, because we're asked to steward this country and this community. And so elections matter, voting matters, ideas matter, and we just need to educate ourselves and advocate properly. So, sorry, thank you. I just had to do that. I mean,
no,
Adrian,
I'm glad
I've been
you
walking
did,
with
because
Adrian for years, man, and the evidence. So anybody online that I've heard, or someone that says, I don't give a shit, he's still a coward, I go, how is he a coward? And I'll listen. I'll put on the Jeopardy music and I'll listen. How is he a coward? Well, he stayed there no, he didn't stay there for 77 minutes. He was out getting kids out of a building. He drove on there. There's other people that stayed at perimeter. And there's other guy, and I won't mention his name because I railed on him during trial, that they didn't call him to the stand, by the way. The government didn't. Who stayed at the damn corner, was called out to the scene in the first place. He stayed at the corner. Adrian drove in. Adrian didn't get the call. He responded to the call. It wasn't his call. But he heard it was running onto a school. He says, and he's not even assigned to that school. He's assigned to the high school. And he drives on, which he thought was the shooter. It ended up being that assistant coach, Miss Flores, who was a very sweet lady that went through a traumatic experience. And then he hears shooting, and then he never sees this guy, and then the shooter gets in. He ends up finding out when they run into the building. And that first 5 in the building contained the shooter. And the jury's heard that, and they talked about that after. They said, man, but for those first 5 officers, forget about everybody else, the 376, by the way. But those first 5 officers, that son of a bitch could have walked and left, finished off 111. Yep. The reason why we believe that 112, some precious babies lived, is because he was distracted by hearing the officers outside. He came out to shoot. He's hearing them. They're talking to him. They're trying to negotiate with him. They don't even know at first that there's kids in there. You should hear the horror of these officers when they finally breach and they walk into that room. You should hear the horror. Oh, I mean, it's palpable. It'll give you chills when they realize what was in that room and what damage, how much just pure horror was in that room.
Carnage.
It was, and then the videos are horrific. It'll stay in your brain. You don't want to watch it. But it's just, but those 5 officers contained him in 111, and I believe, and we made the argument, and the jury agreed that they saved the children that survived in 112 because he was so distracted. What would have stopped him from finishing off 112?
Sure.
But he was distracted, and he knew that was his homeroom, by the way. 111 was his homeroom. He went to school there when he was in 4th grade. And he knew that closet, and he was waiting there because he wanted to be a cop killer. And he shot cops when they came in, but they had the shield because they had the equipment finally, and they breached the door. And he shot at them, and he hit one of them in the head again. But it skimmed their head. Wow. That guy's head, Wayne. It was just and so Adrian wasn't inside. He was inside at the first. He was given an order to call SWAT. Once he got outside, he saw that the hallway started filling up. He's like, I'm not needed inside anymore. So he's held perimeter because he didn't want the guy to jump out the back window because they'd shot up. And then he started helping other officers take kids out of the other rooms. They broke windows and they got kids out. There's pictures of him doing that.
Gina asked a question, and I have it too. Why did they charge Adrian and not all the other officers who were obviously closer and didn't help? Why?
Good question, right?
Ask him. I don't know.
Yeah.
Ask them that.
Yeah.
Because I think he was the lowest man on the totem pole. because Uvalde City hired a guy named Prado, Jesse Prado, I believe his name is. I think it was Jesse. He did an objective, independent analysis of the protocols that were followed, and they looked at Landry and another officer, Canales Martinez, and some of these other people in charge. They were looking at administration, the people in charge, and they said, look, they followed protocol, what they knew at the time. Now, no one was even looking at Adrian. He wasn't a blip on the radar. So I think, my humble look, this is my opinion, okay? I don't know. But if I'm the DA there and I'm thinking, well, shit, I can't go after these guys because then I'm going to have to go after an expert that are my own city hired to do an evaluation, and I'm going to be cross-examining my own expert for our city. Who didn't they look at? Adrian, he was the first on the scene. We can differentiate him. Now, Bill Turner was the special prosecutor, an honorable man. He was the Brazos County DA for 30 years. Jason Goss, one of my law partners, I stole him from Bill. Nice. And he was, if you couldn't tell in between, a strong affinity for that man. I think he truly believed his case. I do. Christina has to deal with a lot of different politics in her local area. She says it doesn't. That's fine. I can have my opinion. She can have hers, and we can respectfully disagree. But Bill had no politics. He's not an elected official. He came in as a special prosecutor to work under Christina. But he was a DA. He was the elected DA in Brazos County for 30 years. A man of honor. I think a lot of Bill Turner. He's a good man. I believe he was very, very wrong, but that doesn't speak to his character. That just speaks to his analysis. Yeah. So I don't know why they didn't prosecute all these other people. I mean, they were focused on 3.5 minutes that Adrian was just standing around when you have officers at the corner on the side of the shooter with line of sight and a rifle that didn't do anything. It makes no sense. And then you have another officer standing that was called to the scene, and he sets a perimeter at the corner of Carrizo's and go to the school, the shooters at the school. And here's Adrian, not assigned to the case, driving in anyway, seeing someone going not past the perimeter. He drove straight into the eye of the storm, and to confront somebody, realizes it's an assistant coach, stays with her. Now he's protecting her because they're hearing shots, and there's a lot of echoing. The jury heard a lot about echoing when you shoot near buildings, and you can't tell where shootings coming from, except for this Ranger Hill obviously has bionic ears. But I mean, and so you're figuring this out, and so we broke it down to the jury. There was really a minute and 48 seconds. When you looked at their indictment and what they were accusing him of, it was really a minute and 48 seconds. He gets on the scene. Adrian Parks at 11:31:55. 11:31:55. That bastard is in the building. The shooter is in the building at 11:32:58. That's a minute and 3 seconds. But he doesn't know he gets in the building. He never knows because he never saw him, and no one told him. They didn't tell him. They didn't transmit on that side. They could have. They saw him. They knew he went in the building. They just thought he was running through. They were so focused on bailouts over there that nobody, at least those officers in the corner, couldn't even fathom that somebody would shoot up a school in Uvalde, Texas. They thought he was going to run through the school. Now you can say, what the fuck are you thinking? You have a person with a gun shooting up a school, shooting around a school, and they run into the school, and you think they're going to run through the school? How do you know they even know where that school is? I mean, it was just crazy. But a long answer, I don't know why they. And I'm not saying they should prosecute anybody, Karen.
At what point?
Yeah.
At what point do you think in the trial that it became? You didn't use the word, but everybody was probably thinking scapegoat. At what point in the trial do you think it became clear that Adrian was in fact being scapegoated? Because at the end of the day, I think most people understand, whether you're a lawyer or not, it's much easier to prosecute one individual than what's the other extreme? It's either 1 or 300. I don't know how many were there. So, and then the guy you're prosecuting, arguably, and on the evidence, actually did more than the average officer, not less.
Oh,
so at what point did it dawn on the jury that this guy really is being
Targeted.
scapegoated?
Yeah. So if you go back and watch our opening arguments, our opening statements, you see that we describe a scapegoat. We tell them, look at this. The evidence is going to show this. You're going to see this. You're going to see officers over here. They didn't act. Line of sight, rifles. We told them everything.
Yeah.
We prepared them. We set the standard. We gave them a roadmap of what to expect. So we laid the groundwork for scapegoat description without calling it that.
Yeah.
And I think early on in the witnesses, especially some of the teachers, we got some very gently. We got some good information from them, and they're thinking,
Sure.
Okay, when is this going to be about? And the jury. When is it going to be about Adrian? I mean, they prosecuted a capital murder case through Adrian. That's the way they prosecuted it, which it was a capital murder, right? Multiple killing of individuals and children under 10. But Adrian wasn't the one that did it, and they knew that, and everybody knew that. But that's why we kept reminding people of what's this really about. And when you look at the indictment, they really had to cut it off. Because if they didn't cut it off when the shooter got into 112 and started shooting, then at some point, then you have to prosecute all 376
For me, that's
officers.
the part from me that I thought was gross. I think it's gross because it got to a point where it almost seemed like it was Adrian that had killed those kids.
I know.
That's
I
gross.
know.
That's interesting you said that.
That's just. I mean, this is why biblically it's one of those things that God detests.
Proverbs 6:16.
Yeah, because think about that for a moment. I mean, so the coward label, are you kidding? That's a compliment.
Well, I said
might
that,
as well call him a murderer.
Well, I said that in closing arguments. They're trying to serve you a coward sandwich, but the problem is it's in between two bread slices of bravery. So how do you do that? How do you do that? How do you say he's a coward in the middle, but he showed bravery here and he showed bravery here, but in the middle he's a coward? It just didn't make any sense. So they have to take off the bread of bravery to have you eat the middle like an Oreo cookie. And that was analogous to make them think that it just doesn't make any sense. And I don't know if you saw closing arguments, but we laid it out for them in closing arguments of what the government would have to ask them to ignore all these things. And I challenged them to come up, and they didn't come up and respond to it because she couldn't. She couldn't respond to it. And the jury talked about that. And it was a very emotional case because two things can be true at the same time. You have deeply grieving families, and righteous anger. Look, I'm angry too. I've had to watch those videos, all of them, not the ones that were released, all of them. And it enrages you. It affects you. It stains your brain because you can never take those images out of your face. And I've seen a lot of images, but this is the worst I've ever seen. And it enrages you when you think of innocent people. I hate the thought of them being helpless when that fucking animal walked into that school with just depravity. It's just pure evil from the pits of hell. And you want to protect them, and this is what they were thinking. But it wasn't Adrian. You have righteous anger. You have every right to be angry, but not at Adrian. I mean, he risked his life twice, and he was willing to die. He was willing to pay the ultimate price for those precious babies, even not knowing that there were kids inside, by the way, because it was the last day of school. There was an award ceremony. Kids had gotten picked up early. The high school had been there was a lot going on. This wasn't a normal day. So you see on the videos, are there even kids inside? Mm-hmm. And here's the irony. In a lockdown, the children are taught, turn off lights. The door is supposed to already be locked but verified, and that was an issue. There was a culture of unlocked doors over there. And then they hide in a corner, and then they turn the lights off to hopefully a shooter doesn't see them and think it's empty. And they're trained to be quiet. But because they're trained to be quiet, officers didn't know if there was any kids in there. And then because the doors are out swinging, you know why they're out swinging doors? It's so somebody with bad intentions can't kick open the door. But the problem is, if there's someone with bad intentions inside, you can't kick open the door. So there's things we need to do. There's conversations we need to have. There's these foldable walls that you can do, these bulletproof walls that are expensive. Spend the money. And that you can pull out and lock down and have locked doors. And it's all about timing on these situations. If your doors are locked at the building, they can't get in, at least for a while. That was a big deal we emphasized. The jury saw that too. Why was that building open?
Yep.
And then the individual classroom was open. Two different things. The timing was the essence. And then, of course, not having a designated officer there and not having.
And then there's the
equipment.
loaded question, isn't there? How the fuck did we get to a place in American society where we're talking about that as a solution?
Ranges me, man.
And the idea that this isn't in the heart of your culture. This is symptomology here, man.
You know what? If the families wanted me to, I would go and represent them in advocating for change in school districts. I wouldn't do it I'd do it for free. I don't even want a penny. Don't give me a penny. I don't want a penny. People, and it's not about taking guns away from people. I don't give a shit what anybody says. Now, the shooter was identified in high school as someone that could do a school shooting.
I know.
Now the school didn't do. Why didn't they label him? Why didn't they get him? Why didn't they put him in a process? Why didn't they start that process? He shouldn't have been able to buy a gun. I'm going to say this, and you're not going to get a stronger Second Amendment advocate than me. I don't think an 18-year-old should be able to buy an AR-15. And I'm not. And I want every 21-year-old to have an AR-15. I just do. And you can make the argument, well, if you go and you serve our country, you have an AR-15. Well, then those people can have an AR-15. You sign up to die for our country. There's an exception for there's an exception for someone in the Marines, Army, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard. If you're serving our country, you can have an AR-15. You have a special license, you can have an AR-15. But a general 18-year-old, now can the 18-year-old buy a deer rifle, a shotgun? Yes. I'm okay.
But in the military, it's your job description, and you're trained accordingly.
But I'm just that's the counter argument that I get with people. And there's a distinction between an 18-year-old can buy a rifle but cannot buy a handgun. Why? They can both kill people. There's a discrepancy in our laws on age of accountability. 16 to drive, 18 to have a contract, 18 to vote, 21 to drink, 18 to buy a rifle, 21 to buy a handgun, 17 to consent to sex. What the fuck? I mean, either you're a person of responsibility or you're not.
Yeah. But there's two issues, right? There's the inconsistency, which should be addressed, and then there's the argument that an 18-year-old shouldn't be able to own a rifle.
Yep.
So those are separate things, though. So you can address the inconsistency. I think you should, because it's a confused hierarchy.
Yes.
But nobody wants to be confused. We shouldn't be confused about that, because it's a matter of life and death. But particularly as it comes to gun ownership and gun use. But why shouldn't an 18-year-old, in your view, just generally, aside from the confusing inconsistencies, why shouldn't an 18-year-old own an AR-15?
How many 18-year-olds do you think you'd feel comfortable having an AR-15?
Well, it depends on the 18-year-old, of course.
You wouldn't even want your son to have an AR-15.
That's true.
Okay, and that's your own son.
Right.
Okay, so then I think that's my question.
No, I'm asking.
That's it. Whatever logic is in your mind that said you don't even want your own son to have an AR-15.
Yeah, I was trying
the same logic for somebody else.
I get it. I get it at a gut level. I do get that. But I'm saying, from a legal perspective, how would you position that?
Well, I mean, number one, if we're in the 1800s, it wouldn't matter. An AR-15. There's adults I don't want to have AR-15s. I mean, I mean. The way you treat an AR-15, the capabilities, people don't even know how to use guns. Now, I'm not for you have to train on a weapon before you buy one. I believe in the Second Amendment, but you should train with a weapon. I'm huge on training. I mean, and you can see it in the trial, and you can tell. I mean, I don't buy a fucking hammer if you don't train with a gun. You just buy a hammer. I mean, you're gonna hurt yourself. I've seen a lot of people, but all that to say, guns are not the problem.
Yeah,
and we've talked about the stats over and over again. I mean, vehicular deaths and alcohol-related deaths almost triple gun death, and that's 60% suicide.
Yeah,
guns are not the problem. You're never going to win that argument objectively with me. You're never going to. And one thing I'm not open to changing is that. Why? Because I know the stats. You're not going to be. You're not. If you put alcohol, a car, and a gun. The gun is not even close in the discussion of the damage
for every
that can be done.
Virginia Democrat that's listening right now, tons of proposals on banning guns that are coming through.
It's just
moronic.
Yeah. All you're doing is you're trying to take power away from the people. That's all you're doing, so they can be more subject to the government.
Strip people the ability to defend themselves.
Yes. So bullshit.
So you've made a social cultural argument in the 18th century. Time of the American Revolution. Hey, this was part and parcel and central to livelihood. People
were getting married at 15 years old back then.
Yep.
Yeah, because it was a different way of life. You can look at. I love looking at the old pics. There's some Instagram posts where you look at the 1800s and you look at a 12, 9, 10-year-old, and they just have a different countenance about them. Yeah. I mean, they're just their face. I mean, their posture. Everything's different about them. The way they move, they look like little adults.
Yeah.
I mean, the worst thing, I think it was the Reader's Digest came up with the word teenager. Fucked our society up. They came teenager, and now from 13 to 19, everybody writes off teenagers. Bullshit. I changed my mind a long time ago. I expect a lot out of my 13-year-old. And in our household, I expect a lot from you. I'll let you be a 13-year-old in the right context. Have fun. Of course you can do. But I expect a lot out of you. That's not an excuse. A teenager bullshit doesn't fly with me. Because I'm involved in a system where we make excuses for teenagers, and then we have a bunch of problem with them. And we expect you expect nothing from somebody, they're going to give you nothing.
Yeah.
I expect a lot from teenagers.
You got a low bar, you're getting at a low crossing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I expect a lot. They need to be trained, mentored, guided, built up, great foundation, prepare them for a tough world, prepare their mind, their spirit, their bodies, and then go out and live life. I mean, if you look at the Civil War, there's stories of 12 and 13-year-olds fighting in the Civil War, saving battalions.
Sure.
In the Pony Express, a 12-year-old crossing the country on a horse.
Yeah.
With some beef jerky and a can of beans and some water and probably a gun. They have to protect themselves. Or guns and bullets and a map and the stars, and they're crossing the country from the Pony Express. 12-year-olds. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't have a 12-year-old cross the street today.
Yep.
We're fucked up. We don't understand. We can't survive on our own. We can't think. There's no critical thinking. We don't toughen up our kids. Toughen them up a little bit. Let them struggle. Put them in doing some hard things. Get rid of the turtleback. Fucking have them stand up straight. Expect things from them. Teach them manners. Tell them to respect. Teach them to respect women, and to keep their word and have honor and integrity, and to fight a fight even if you think you're going to lose. You fight the fight for the fucking principle. Let the chips fall where they may. Teach them to live in a way, for me, in our home, live for a way that we're going to stand before God. Look, I almost put this in my closing argument. It's the greatest scene, and you know what I'm going to say, in cinema history. It's the greatest scene in cinema history. It comes from The Green Mile. John Coffey is accused of murdering this little girl, and he's a big black dude. And not only was he innocent, but he has this wonderful gift in this movie of healing people. And so Tom Hanks is the head guard, and he's been convicted, and he has a death penalty. At the end of the movie, Tom Hanks comes into the cell, just opens the cell, because he's realized by this time that John Coffey not only is innocent, but is a miracle. And he comes up, and you see John Coffey get up, and he goes, "Hey, John, a couple of days away?" He goes, "Yeah, boss." He goes, "What do you want to eat? Get you almost anything." He said, "Meatloaf, some mashed potatoes, okra, be nice. You want me to get you a preacher?" "Don't need no preacher. You can say a prayer if you want to." "I reckon I could." He goes, "I got to tell you something, John." He goes, "You don't have to, boss. I know what you're going to say." He goes, "No, I got to say it." He goes, "Do you want me to let you go? Do you want me to take you out of this place and let you run and see how far you can go and see how far you can get away, John? Do you want me to do that?" He goes, "Why would you do that, boss?" Here's the part. Because what am I going to say when I stand before God and he asks me, "Why did you let them kill my true miracle?" What am I going to say, John? And John gives him his gracious answer to it. My point is that we don't live for something greater than ourselves. That society can be all fucked up as it is, and we want to go along to get along. But in the end, do you truly believe you're going to stand before a gracious, just God, a good God, a loving God, but that also has loving wrath and loving righteousness, and that we're going to stand before and give an answer for the stewardship of our life, what we have, our talents, our families, what we do, what we advocate for, what we defend, and what we stand for, and what we fall for. All that stuff, we're going to give an answer for that. That's why that's the greatest scene in cinema history, because it has meaning behind that. Because Tom Hanks was willing to get in trouble with society. Dare I say, I'm not advocating breaking the law, but get in trouble with everyone else and pay the consequence down here because he was going to stand before God and have to give an answer. And that's how I want to raise my children. And it's an experiment, man. And you do the best you can, and you pray that the Lord gives you a spouse that can go along that journey with you, and that you look to the rules of engagement of the Bible for me and to the example of Christ, my Savior, and you stand hard. And you fall soft because Christ is going to carry you, but you fight, always fight, and you never give up, no matter what. Let the chips fall where they may, but if you're standing on a principle, no one can back you off that principle. That's the world I want to live in. And is it an idealistic world? Sure it is.
John Adams would agree with you, right? Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. So morality and virtue are essential to a republic.
Yeah.
And we got to have more and more of these conversations, not less. Yeah.
All right. Sorry for
Amen.
this.
No, it's
Sorry
good
for
stuff,
the speech.
baby. Good stuff.
It's good.
All right, guys.
stuff.
Saulo, happy birthday, brother.
Happy
God bless
birthday,
you.
Saulo.
I pray many, many more years over you, brother. Blessed to have you in our lives, and let's call you a friend.
See you at your 102nd.
A la fregada. Okay. All right, guys. God bless you. Stay warm. Wrap your pipes. Wrap your whatever you want to wrap. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.